I think we forget that, and we forget that it's not, all about me, 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 me. It's really about us, and it's really about understanding that, you know, we're this one person on this planet that's floating in this place we call the universe. There's so many of us that can come together and can, do amazing things. And if we try to do it on our own, then, you just feel this sense of like loneliness, right?
Helton, welcome to Empathy Led. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's so good to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. Yeah, yeah, I'm ready.
Good. So, for the people who do not know me, which I guess includes me, because you and I, our relationship is still at the early stages. We've gotten to know each other a little bit online. So, for the people who don't know you, give us the important pieces of your life puzzle that will help us get a better understanding of who you are and the path that led you here.
uh, yeah, that's a great question. I would say I would start with I was born in Cape Verde, so it's West Africa, and came to Canada when I was 2 years old. And I just I don't know. I love to state where I was born because I feel like it was uh, just so important to me growing up. Something like my grandma, my mom, my uncle always remind me like, hey, you were born in Cape Verde. We'd always go back. Like my mom lives there for half the year.
Mm.
So it's just such an integral part of of who I am, but also it gives me an understanding of just I think some of the conditionings that have been placed on me, and understanding how I can almost look through them to find like my true self. So it's like I'm not, a product of where I came from. I am my own being. Um, and yeah, it's just, I think that's kind of like led me to this path of like trying to uncover that and understand that I have way more control over my life and the outcomes that come as a result of what I do in my life, and that I don't have to just always think so small or always feel like I've hit like a ceiling or a cap because of where I come from or because of my own personal circumstances. Um, yeah, and I think a big thing that has kind of led me down that path was being open to like talking more about things that I didn't see people around me doing, which was like meditation. I think is a big part of that, and really being able to like sit with yourself and sit with the mind and kind of clean that lens and understand why is it that you see things a certain way, and have these certain beliefs, and like are they serving you, and do they really speak to the true essence of you. And yeah, it's just I think that's a major part of like my almost think like a liberation to really walking down that path of like truth and understanding, and then wanting to share that with others, because I think it's something that I had struggled with for such a long time, not wanting to share because I could be looked at like an outcast, or like I was crazy or something. But now it's like I get excited, and I just if this is something that can maybe help someone a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line, and they remember me and they say, "Oh, Helton, that crazy guy was talking about this. Now it makes sense." That's kind of, I think, like my I don't want to say my purpose, but it's just something that really gives me a lot of ease. It's like, be yourself, show up, do your thing, and everything will take care of itself.
Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing, man. I I, I believe that people that have dual or multicultural background
Mm.
have an advantage on the rest when it comes to the ability to flex the empathy muscle, because
Mm.
you naturally look at the world and reality through multiple lenses, which most people really have a very limited view of the world and reality as they experience it. So can you talk through how being from Cape Verde and grow up in Canada kind of shaped and influenced your ability to see the world and your ability to perceive reality? Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. So first time, so we moved to Canada. I was 2 years old. First time I went back, I was 6 years old, and it's like growing up. We're in a low income area, but you don't know that as a kid. Like it's just you're just living, you're having fun. You go to school, you get toys here and there from the dollar store, whatever. You know what I mean? And you go to the malls you go to. You don't like it. To me, it was just like, oh, I'm living this beautiful life. I remember the first time we went, I had all these toys, and my mom's like, okay, we're gonna, all these toys that you don't play with, are gonna bring them back home. I was like, but why? They're my toys. Like, and I was the only child, so it's like another layer of like everything that I have is mine, right? I don't have to share.
Yeah.
But I don't remember exactly what she said to me, but she convinced me, and I was just like, okay, cool. Like maybe she said, oh, we need toys there for us to play with, or so you have toys to play with your cousins. And we get there, and I think we brought like 2 garbage bags full of clothes. And back then you could like travel with like so much luggage and stuff, right? I think we could each have like 2 big luggages. And you get there, and I see my cousins first time, and I didn't really speak the language that well. So I would just like try to communicate mostly in just body language. But I started to pick up, and I think a lot of the communication. That's where I started to really understand that a lot of our communication is nonverbal, and we can, be empathetic with others through just the way we show up and the way we almost like carry ourselves and the way we embrace each other, and kind of just even just like being around for someone. You don't have to say anything, but just you have this energy exchange. And I noticed like the first time, I'm playing with my cousins, we can't like I couldn't speak to them that first month because we were there for I think 2 months. That first month I couldn't speak to them, but we could communicate, and we were like sharing these toys together, and they were so happy, and I could see like the happiness in their eyes, in their face, like just it was something. I think that it really unlocked this sense of like giving, and giving without like just really expecting anything in return, and just like giving because you want to see like the happiness in others. You want to see like this connection being built. And I think that's the first time that I really started to understand that it's not about like what I can attain for myself. It's about like what I can share. And I think that's what it always brings me back to this place of like, okay, what is it that you can share with people? What is it that you can like give as a gift? Even if it's like you see someone and it's just like a little nod, nod of the head, or just like just giving them like a quick prayer or something.
Yeah.
But that's where I think I started to learn that sense of empathy, because you begin to understand that there is there's such a difference in like what you hold value and what I hold value, or what I hold as value. And if we can begin to understand that we don't need so much, or we don't need to feel like this sense of like I need to keep everything for myself, because there's others in the world that do so much with so little. And I think like most of it really comes down to like the time that you spend with people, and the understanding that you can communicate with one another through like so many different platforms and so many different ways. So I think that's my first kind of glimpse into that sense of like empathy, and like understanding of like the other.
Yeah.
It's not just about me, it's about you, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's about you. It's about us, right? Like for me,
Hmm.
I really, really relate to that idea of going of being immersed into a new culture and desperately trying to communicate and connect with other people when you don't really have the same cultural context and you don't even speak the same language, right? Like that was
Hmm.
very much my experience moving to America as a
Hmm.
19-year-old who had no family here, never visited the US, and I could barely speak the language. All of a sudden, all the cultural references, all the ways in which I connected with other human beings were gone, and I had to find new
Hmm.
ways to connect with other people and to communicate with them. And moving here, the main reason I moved here is because I was afforded a full scholarship to play soccer. So with my teammates, soccer was it. It was this
Yeah.
language that we had. Although I didn't understand most of what they said on the field, I didn't need to speak English. My movement, the way I asked for the ball, the things I did created that point of connection, and our common love for the game was that point of connection. But outside of the team, with other people on campus, I had to find new ways to connect with other human beings. And for me, that was a really, really eye-opening moment in our shared human experience, and all the ways we can really be there and connect with one another when we try to find things that are more fundamental to being human outside of the regular superficial markers that we typically use to try to connect with
Hmm.
one another. And so that story of you, especially as a 6 year old moving to Cape Verde and trying to connect with your cousins and trying to find ways to communicate and using toys and body language and facial
Yeah.
expression and energy to really connect is something that's very, very powerful. There is really nothing like travel to
Hmm.
really stretch and flex our empathy muscles.
Yeah, like it's interesting because you do things that you almost like you take for granted when you're in, like when I was in Canada. It's like whenever I showered, I had a hot shower, but there it was very limited, and the first time I had a cold shower, I was like, wow, like this is, you know what I mean, like it's shocking, but you have this I don't know, for me I had this like just ability to adapt and understand that, oh, if someone else is doing it, I can do it, you know what I mean, like it's not that far-fetched to be able to 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 just leave some of these comforts behind and understand that people do live differently, and that's okay. and
Mhm.
it's and it doesn't make them less than. It almost, I don't know, for me it helped me to embrace this sense of just understanding that I'm much more than the like the things that are afforded to me, you know what I mean, like I'm much more than these like material things that I'm able to attain. It's much more than that. It's more
Yeah.
about like the camaraderie, the communication, the love, the embracing of one another, the the just the communication that we're able to develop, like my mom always tells me this story, like I would call people burro, and burro means like donkey, like and she's like, but you can't call people that. I was like, but I don't know what else to say. Like that's the only word I know. But it's like, but no one took offense to that because they just knew I was learning, and but it's just funny to see how like people embrace you, and like people, because people also embracing me, like they, because a lot of the times, if you leave and you come back, they call you a turista, a
Mm,
tourist, right? But when you're there for a month, 2 months, people are like, oh, now you're here for a long time. You
yeah.
start to, really be in there. You start to, play soccer with the kids. You start to, like all this kind of stuff. And it's, you know, something that every time I go back, I just feel so at home. And I think it's because I was, able to almost like have that integration at a young age, and really develop these like relationships, and like you're saying, at like a fundamental level
Yeah.
where we were speaking to each other without speaking, you know what I mean, it was more of like this energetic flow, this deep connection that I think a lot of times we take for granted, or that
Yeah.
we don't cultivate it enough.
Yeah. You talked about meditation earlier. When were you first introduced to meditation?
First time I was introduced to meditation formally was when I did a yoga teacher training, and I was like 26, 20. Yeah, I was around 26, so I was like nine years ago. And yeah, but it was during a yoga teacher training, and it was really just kind of presented to us as a way to like ground our students before the physical asana practice. So it was very, like maybe 5 minutes max, not even.
Yeah.
But I just noticed like I was getting really like into it, and I was like, okay, like this is actually really cool. Like I'm enjoying this. So that was my first introduction to meditation.
And what was happening in your life at that particular juncture that prompted the need to go to yoga teacher training?
So I had been practicing yoga for since I was like 19, 20. Um, so was practicing, and then I was like, oh, you know what? I'm really enjoying this, and I'd like to do more of it. And I think it was something where, I would go into yoga classes, yoga spaces, and I wouldn't really see, you know, anyone that really looked like me, or a lot of men. Like it was barely any men. And um and then on top of that, like barely anyone black doing like yoga. So I was just like, okay, well, I think this is something that I'm really connected to, and something that I want to share more with people, because I see it as like it's for everyone. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like right when, and then I was like, okay, let me deepen my understanding. And when I did the yoga teacher training, a big part of it was in the tradition. So you start to understand, and you start to see like, oh, this is like it's really deep, and it really has so many transformative qualities, and like really it's like it's for life. It's not just for that hour that
Yeah.
you're there and to make your body look good. No, it's like it's like life lessons that you learn on and off the mat, that you're able to just apply in the moment. So yeah, I just, doing that teacher training really helped to open up my lens on, again, understanding that and coming back to that like sense of self, and that sense of, oh, I'm here to share. I'm here to, do things that I'm uncomfortable with, but then find that comfort within that discomfort, and then get uncomfortable again when I share it and people don't reciprocate, but that's totally fine. But then also just like keep going, you know what I mean? And just not almost like just not giving up, because you know there may be that 1% of you that does get it, and that's all for me. That's all I need. It's just like that little bit of maybe you seeing a reflection of yourself in me, and understanding like, oh, okay, this could be useful to me, maybe not now, but later. And then whole other transformation happens.
Yeah. So from a yoga practitioner to yoga teacher, and now meditation mindfulness coach, and starting a company centered around that. So what informed that evolution all the way to why did you feel the need to create a company? Tell us a little bit more about Nice to See Me and what the mission there is.
So I started the company a year and a half ago, but what led me to get to that point was, um, I had such a difficult time with my academics, but it was interesting, because from the first day I went to school, I loved going to school, and then I got to middle school, and loved the middle school I was in. And then we ended up moving. And I was like, and I didn't realize this till a few years ago. I was just like heartbroken from that,
Mm.
because, we moved, and it's like, now I feel so displaced from like this like core group of friends that I had. And, it's now I'm an hour away, and, I'm still trying to make it to that school. So my mom would still work in Toronto at the time. And she would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would wake up with her. I was determined, like, I'm gonna wake up with you, you're gonna drop me off at grandma's house, and I'm gonna walk to school, like. And it was like a far walk, but I was like, I didn't care, I'm gonna do it, like that's what I want to do. And we couldn't sustain it, and I was just heartbroken, but I didn't realize it. And high school was just, I just had no motivation, didn't want to do it, but I knew like I had to go to university because that was what it was expected of me and whatnot. Just scraped my way through to university and had such a difficult time. Like, I don't know what it was, if I just didn't feel like what I was doing. I was in sciences. I just like, I don't know. I like the practical, like more of the, actually doing things with my hands, but the theory and being able to like go do an exam and regurgitate that theory onto the paper, I just couldn't do it. It was just too difficult. I just wasn't in the right mind space. But what really helped me to, I think, like really start this journey was the understanding that, okay, there's a lot of things that have happened in my life, and there's a lot of things that I'm constantly reliving and constantly coming back to. And that's what's almost like giving me this sense of self, like this identity. Like, I'm this broken person, I'm less than, I wasn't able, like I'm dumb because I got kicked out of university, like all these different things. And I just started to realize, okay, and once starting to get that understanding of like the true essence of meditation and how it can help you, and these practices and these tools that we can develop, was it just like, that's just a reflection of like my ego and this like false sense of self. And if I think that way, then I have this ability to almost like reprogram my mind to see myself as I truly feel. And I know that I'm capable of so much. And I know that, that what I want to do with my life is to continue to, share this like almost like unconditional love and understanding, and reflect that back to people that may look at themselves in the mirror and not feel that. But, just give them this sense of understanding that, if you're able to, see a certain quality in someone, it's because you have that within you. And yeah, it just led me to, I did a meditation teacher training out of New York, and that was based in like Tibetan Buddhism, which really like just broke open my heart and like just my understanding of the world, and just this ability to connect with one another on a truly like deep level. And then this understanding that, there's so much capacity that we all have as like human beings, and it goes, I think it goes further than us just being successful monetarily. I think it's more about the capacity to love, the capacity to show empathy, the capacity to understand one another, the capacity to, not be enslaved by your thoughts, and not be in this, not create these cycles for yourself where you just, succumb to your conditionings, right? Where we have this ability to really like, break through and see and see through that fog. And I think, when I started the company Nice to See Me, it was, I think at a place in my life where I was working at Nike at the time, and I was leading sessions at Nike, and it was like awesome, like just going to all these different teams across North America, leading sessions, like just doing things that I couldn't even imagine, right? And it just kind of signaled to me, okay, so if you constantly have been feeling this sense of like you need to prove yourself, right? Like every job I worked at, I felt like I needed to prove myself, like I needed to go above and beyond. And I would get to a point where I would feel like I was gonna like hit this next level, and then I would get shot back down. I said, if this is like the continuous pattern, right? and I'm reliving it over and over again. I felt that at my previous job, I felt that at Nike, and I was just thinking, okay, but if people are recognizing around you this quality that you have, right? This ability to come in, hold space, to guide others, to like, help, I think, bring a sense of ease and calm to those that are participating. Then that's something that they're able to see that in you. It's there. You just have to really believe in it. And I thought, okay, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years, working in a corporate environment. Why not like try to do something else? And it's just like, okay, well, this is what I've been doing and I feel really connected to it. And I just took the plunge. I, gave them a 1 month notice, and I just started this company. And it was really, I think the main message is really around like, once you begin to understand yourself and you begin to do that work, although it is difficult, although it is very uncomfortable and very unpleasant, you begin to see that true self, and you begin to like almost remove that mask that you feel like you have to put up, right? For people to accept you, for people to embrace you, for people to acknowledge you. And I started to realize that it's not, it's just about me being my true self and not worrying and not letting these thoughts keep me in that limited space of self. Um, and I had to bring it one step further, and it's like, okay, how can I help people to also get to that understanding of self, that they can remove that mask, be who they truly are, and be embraced, and not have to worry about like being looked at like they're crazy or anything like that. It's just, a lot of the times, if we're not seeing that from people around us, and if we're not seeing people that look like us doing certain things, then we believe that it's not for us, right?
Yeah.
So it's more about like bringing that to to people, bringing that to, I think, like kids that look like me, that have similar lived experiences. And like even last time I went back home, I led my town soccer team through yoga session and meditation.
Oh
And
wow.
it was the first time I did it in Portuguese, and it was the first time that I did something like that, and I was just like, wow, they embraced it, right? And I think it was, again, it's that energy exchange, and it's also just like, I think them being able to look at me and say, oh, like this is someone that like that has like similar lived experience, similar qualities. We can embrace this. If he can do it, I can do it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the important part of this, is like just being able to reflect back the positivity and the empowering qualities that people have within them. Um, yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, there is so much advantage to showing up in the world as your true self, really being able to connect with that true self, your ability to do things that really light your soul on fire, your ability to leverage your gift, your talent, your passion to make
Mm-hmm.
a contribution to the world, your ability to empathize with other human beings starts with being able to see and hear yourself in them. Right? There's so many advantages so for somebody who wants to endeavor into really trying to connect with that true self, like, where do I start?
I think it's you start with the breath, and you understand that that's something that you always have access to. A lot of the times we I don't know what the stat is, but it's like 99% of the time we're unconscious of our breath, right? Because it's automatic. We just do it. We don't have to think about it. But if you can, even for a few moments, bring that connectivity to the breath, like really understanding the quality of your breath, it can bring you so much grounding and so much of this like ease to the nervous system. Because a lot of the times we're in this like state of like fight or flight, right? We're just like, we're going, something's triggering us, right? But if you're able to, like, even like when something's triggering you or activating you, I'll say that, when something's activating you, if you can just sit with it and breathe, right? Then you begin to, what I've experienced, you begin to understand why that's coming up. And you can almost like have this, I have this like internal dialogue with myself. It's like, okay, what is that there for? Oh, oh, it's reminding me of when I was a kid and I saw this happen. Okay, but I need to also remind myself that I'm safe, and that happened a long time ago and I've learned so much. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can almost like talk myself back and step back and just like observe what's happening, instead of like feeling like, oh, I'm in it. I'm in it every single time. And I think it's just that the breath is, I think, the connector to being able to step back and just be the observer of your thoughts, not the one that's in it, and not the one that's in the hamster wheel just spinning, right? Either going back to a previous thing that has happened, or projecting yourself to a future thing that you don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Future's the future.
Yeah. No, I can so relate to that idea of using the breath as a tool to really connect to yourself, because really who we are is largely a story, right? It's a story that we tell ourselves about our upbringing, how our
Hmm.
worldview, our relationship with other human beings. This chatter in our mind, and most of that language, most of those stories are unconscious. And I think once you can begin to consciously hear those stories, then it gives you the
Hmm.
ability to decide which ones of those stories are true, which ones of those stories are serving you, and which one of those stories are harming you. And because for the first
Hmm.
time perhaps you are aware of the stories you are telling yourself, it gives you an opportunity to change the stories that no longer serve you, to change the
Hmm.
stories that are limiting to you. And I think that's the power of the breath, to make you more attuned to the chatter in your mind, and to the subtle sensations of your body that are connected to those stories, right? When we are thinking about something traumatic, our physiology responds a certain way. When we are thinking
Hmm.
about something joyful and positive, physiologically we respond a certain way. And I think the breath really gives you that sense of awareness and give you an opportunity to make a different choice, to choose something differently. And there's something powerful about that. I
Yeah.
completely agree. So I know you lead a lot of these mindfulness sessions within the workplace.
Hmm.
And since COVID, the world is at this place where finally we can all agree that we have a lot of rethinking to do when it comes to work, when it comes to the workplace. And people like you on the ground talking to employees really can help us truly understand what it is that we are even trying to change. Because I think unless and until we understand even what it is that should be changing, any change that we make might not be as effective. So, what have you learned leading
Hmm.
hundreds of sessions and leading hundreds of conversations with employees about the state of the workplace and what needs to be thought differently about it?
Yeah, the biggest thing that has come up, and even just through like my experiences, like working in a corporate environment, very fast-paced corporate environment, is this sense of like understanding and belonging, and really being able to support, being in a supportive community. Because a lot of the time, uh, people are feeling, burnt out. They're feeling anxious. They're feeling like they're always striving for something that they believe that they can achieve, or believe that they can't achieve. But they feel like they need to keep pushing forward and keep um, almost putting themselves into positions that they know they don't want to do. 100% they know. It's like, this certain thing, I know I don't want to do it, but I have to do it because it looks poorly on me, and all these kind of narratives that go through. um, and the thing that I feel is missing is just having a sense of like uh, I think leadership when it comes to just like empathy led leadership qualities, where we can have real conversations with each other, because a lot of the time you're in this space, and again you feel like you have to wear that mask, right? You can't be yourself, but I've noticed that if you really can, you surprise yourself so much when you just step out of your way and you step forward with your truth, and step forward with who you are. And at the end of the day, if your truth is steeped in unconditional love, if your truth is steeped in joy, is steeped in just trying to uplift those around you, people will embrace it. Like I I I started leading those sessions at Nike because my teammates were asking me, how are you so calm and relaxed during work? It's like, hey, this is what I do. I meditate, I practice yoga. And then I went and I asked my manager, like, hey, I want to lead our team through this stuff. But if I had, and like she said, yeah, but if I had this, like, this kind of
Preconceived
real in my head,
ideas of what she
yeah,
might say. Oh, this is not a place for work. This is some weird woo woo stuff.
exactly. But if I let that kind of like dictate what I would do, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you, most likely. It's one of those things where, I think a lot of it comes down to like believing, but sometimes it's really super hard to believe when you don't feel like you can like trust those around you, or even trust yourself. And how do we trust people around us, and ourselves? It's by having those like really authentic conversations, like and it's so interesting. But when we give ourselves that chance, the transformation is beautiful.
Yeah,
And when we give ourselves the chance to do something that you know um, we normally wouldn't do, especially when it comes to like a meditation practice. A lot of people have heard of it, but they've never done such a formal practice. You can surprise yourself with how, I think, how normal it is, and how second nature it can become. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like, they're so intuitive, and they have this like quality to just dive into a practice that they've never done before, and like just do it like effortlessly. And it's like, wow, we all have this ability to cultivate these qualities within us. But it's that story that kind of like gets in the way of like,
yeah,
oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, no, you're not capable. It's like, no, you're capable of so much.
yeah, yeah. Our vision at Griot is a world with more empathetic leaders, organizations, and brands. And we started this podcast to learn from people like you what it takes for that world to become reality. So I want to ask you two questions that are related. The first one is around that empathetic leadership. What are some of those qualities that a leader should strive to develop in order to become a more empathetic leader? And the second half of that question is around organizations. What kind of organizations should we be thinking about building based on the conversation you've been having, for us to really create an environment, a culture, an organization that care and look out for people, and where people can belong, right? So let's start with the leadership piece. For somebody who's well intentioned and really really wants to become this empathetic leader, what does it take?
I think the first thing is being able to see yourself in others.
Mm,
Because if you see yourself in someone else, it's like how can you like how can you want to step in their way to them growing, right? Because you wouldn't want to like limit yourself growing. But if you really see yourself in someone else and like, oh, you know what, I want to help you get to where you feel you want to be and need to be, because I would want that for myself. And a lot of the times, it's I don't know where this saying comes from, but it's always in my mind, where it's like, if you want something, help someone else achieve that.
Mm.
You want to start like a company, help someone else achieve their dream, and it will manifest for you, because you're going through, it's like that sense of giving again, right? It's like giving, and like wanting to see that joy, that wanting to see that love that comes from someone, like really embracing their authentic self and really embracing and doing what they want to do. I think that's the first thing. It's like just understanding, that,
Yeah.
being able to view.
And then just to add to that, and then based on our conversation earlier and some of the things you already shared, the path to seeing yourself in other people is really self-awareness, right? Is
Hmm.
developing this ability to better understand yourself so that you can see yourself and recognize yourself in other people. All right, so seeing yourself in other people, what else?
I would say, yeah, seeing yourself in other people. Um, Secondly, being able to better just, I think, hold space, and and let people almost like talk, right? Let people talk, let people, and just listen better. Because a lot of the times, you're having a conversation with someone, and I've noticed this. It's like, you're talking, and then before you even end, the person jumps in and is just like, I didn't finish what I was saying, but and that can get in the way of like someone really truly opening up, and you totally now beginning to understand them. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't understand. Now I get it. And I think that's a major part in like the trust, where it's like, I trust that I am being heard. I trust that I am being seen, you know? And that is something that I think is missing a lot, where it's like someone will just sit down to listen to you, even though you maybe like, as a leader, you're hearing something that you don't want to hear, that you're, whatever it might be, um, something that may be unpleasant, but again, being able to like sit through that unpleasantness and hear someone, because their viewpoint, their perspective is valid,
Yeah.
right? It's valid to them, and it should be, and it's something that I feel like can help to almost like uncover certain parts of yourself where you feel like you're, like showing up as your best self, but there's always that room for improvement, always that room for just like holding space. And I think letting someone know that, hey, I'm here to, first of all, listen to you,
Yeah.
and I want to listen to you, not just I have to, I want to.
Yeah. I mean that second piece. I mean the first piece is powerful. The second piece is just as powerful. I think even when we try to empathize with other people, our ability to be successful also depends on how much of themselves they are willing to reveal. Because the
Hmm.
more they share with us, the more data point we get to really try to understand them as people. But unless we hold space,
Yeah.
unless we create opportunities for people to feel comfortable enough, not just to share, but to share their truth without
Hmm.
being afraid of being judged, it becomes very difficult for us to really arrive at that place of empathy that we are trying to arrive at. So yes to holding space and really giving yourself an opportunity to uncover more layers of the people within your charge on that, so that you can lead them better, so that you can see them better, so that you can understand a little bit more about them as people, so that you can get the best out of them, you know. Yeah.
Hmm.
Is
Hmm.
there anything else you want to add to leadership before we move to the organizational piece to it?
I would say third thing is to embrace like the inner child.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is be able to like, you know, see someone as their younger self. And I say that because there's so much like that's where that unconditional love comes from. I feel is like when you're able to like, you know, look at someone, if I'm able to look at you as like the young junior, like it's just there's so much love there, right? And there's so much acceptance, and there's so much of a, I think, of this like higher sense of understanding that there will be mistakes made, but we have this ability to come together and learn, right? Not just to reprimand you, not you know what I mean, like
yeah,
that's not going to help you grow. What I think is going to help you grow is being able to, you know, learn from these things that happen and see them as just a, you know, a stepping stone to becoming like your true self. And a lot of the times, you know, we see someone and we put these expectations on them, we judge them, we're like, you know, you're 40 years old and you're still doing this or whatever it might be, but it's, you know, we're all just learning, and we're
yeah,
all like we're continuously learning. And if we can view the inner child with the person that we're speaking to, it I think just naturally brings us into a place where we're so much more empathetic and we're so much more kind, right? It's the kindness.
yeah.
We're missing so much of that kindness when it comes to just this back and forth, this ability to communicate with one another.
Ah, I love that so much, man. I mean, we have so much to learn from children when it comes
Yeah.
to acceptance, unconditional love, fearlessness,
Hmm.
curiosity, all
Yeah.
those qualities that we recognize as grown up as important, but somehow we lost is so visible in the kids, the curiosity, the sense of wonder and awe, the acceptance, the kindness, the unconditional love, all those
Hmm.
things that we know will make this world a better place and will make our companies and organizations just like wonderful places for human beings to come and to explore and to grow and to contribute. But yet, we put all those labels. You know, you mentioned, oh, as a 40-year-old, right? Like that's a classic label of age, having
Hmm.
those milestones dictating how you should carry yourself and behave,
Hmm.
and all of that. I love that. I love that. So how do we translate that then? Because I do believe that it starts with the individual, it starts with the leadership. So how do we then translate that into an organization, into a caring, loving, accepting organization where people feel safe and belong?
I, for me, in an ideal world, I think it would be, you know, implementing different strategies to understand like the person, right? Because it's a lot of the times it's like one size fits all, right? Like that's the mentality. If you can do A, B, C, D, you'll be successful in this space. But how about if, you know, A, B doesn't come naturally to me, and I'm really good at CD, you know, I'm really good at, you know, all the rest. I'm really good at all the rest, but A and B, not so good at that. That's something that I really struggle with. How do we understand like the person, and how do we then create, I think, these systems of empowerment where people again can be their authentic selves, their true selves, and show up doing what they feel inclined to do, right? And being open to share that, right? Because a lot of the times, you know, you may like, especially if you work like a entry level position, you almost like do like a little bit of everything, right? Or if you're at a startup, let's say, do a little bit of everything, and then you figure out, oh, you know, I really like marketing, or I really like finance, and then maybe someone mentors you and brings you under their wing, and they start to like teach you a little bit more of that. But a lot of the times, you know, we're just kind of like we're doing something and we're really struggling, and you know, but it's that's not what we find like that sense of like connection to.
Yeah,
And that's why you don't feel that sense of like just success, or like, oh
there's
yeah,
no
this is,
alignment.
Yeah, or alignment. Exactly. There's no alignment there. So if we can better align people with their um, with what speaks to them and what helps them to, I think, really step into their power, then we don't have people in jobs that they don't like doing. We have people that feel empowered by the job that they're doing and they want to do the job.
Yeah,
you
of
know
course. Yeah,
they want to show up
yeah,
because they feel seen, because they feel they can like almost bring their qualities to this space and expand on them,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I know you. Do you want to, before I move on to something else, do you want to add anything else to that organizational piece of creating a space, an environment where people really feel a sense of care and belonging and love and all that?
I think it just kind of like dovetails into like that leadership
Yep.
portion, right? Where we
Yep.
need like the people that are in those leadership positions to embrace those qualities,
Yeah.
right? And to want to implement strategies that help them to better understand the people that they are serving. Because at the end of the day, like, you are serving someone, you
Absolutely.
know you are there to serve, you are there to be of service, you are there to like do something to help someone else.
Yeah, yeah. I have two follow-up questions. The first one is around the leadership piece. I
Mm,
think, and rightly so, that leaders get a lot of criticism for
mhm,
their lack of empathy, their inability to really understand the people in their charge. And it's right, because with the kind of power that they have comes responsibility, as cliche as that sounds. But I think there is also a lack of empathy extended to them, that
mhm,
if as a leader I don't feel well, if as a leader I am overwhelmed, it becomes so hard for me to extend grace, empathize, hold space for another human being. So how can we as leaders be fill up our cups so
mhm.
that we can better show up for the people that we serve?
I find it refreshing when I do a session and the person that hired me, or the manager, or whatever it might be, that has the power to make that decision to say like, hey, you're coming in, we're going to do this, also takes part.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like, there's something there that it's, oh, like the people around also notice that and say, oh wow, if you're taking part in it, it must be that it's beneficial, like it's going to be benefiting you as well. So yeah, maybe it's something, it's definitely something that I should, if I was a little skeptical about it before, I should do it too. And a lot of the times it's like, like leading through action, I feel, and leading through like being um I don't know, I'm losing this word, but it's
yeah,
just
I mean, I feel
just
like
showing up. Yeah.
yeah, for me, the piece that you to try to help you out there, the piece for me that I'm hearing is almost vulnerability. I think as
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
leaders, we also have this mask of I have to be tough. I cannot show any weakness. I cannot show any, you know, if I'm worried, if I'm anxious, if I'm overwhelmed, if I show it to the team, then it's gonna trickle down. So I need to show it. And I feel like is those masks that
Mm-hmm.
really over time make it hard for us to be able to do the things that we need to do, because we ourselves are suffocated. We are
Yeah.
suffocated by all those titles and expectation and masks, many of which are self-imposed. As we've been talking
Mm-hmm.
about, is the stories that we tell ourselves about what a leader should be, about how a leader should behave.
Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to like these family narratives, societal narratives, work narrative, like everything. And the common thread within that is, the trust goes both ways, right? So in order for people to fully trust you, they also need to trust that you're being vulnerable with them, that you're opening up to them, And I think it's one thing that we all need to really keep in mind is that we're all suffering. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if you make $1 million a year or 50,000 or 20,000. It doesn't matter, or make nothing. We're all suffering. We're all going through life, having these experiences. And if from a uh, company lens or an organization lens, if we have this understanding, and we are all, everyone, able to hold grace for one another, hold that space, have those conversations, listen, and then speak. Like, all these different things, if they can all come together, especially with that fundamental understanding we're all suffering, we can all hold grace for each other. I think that's when you start to see that shift, and you
Yeah.
start to see people really wanting to be a part of this um, this whole, right? Because we are all a part of a whole, and we are so connected to each other. And you know, we will have moments where we don't feel so good, where we feel anxious, where, but if we can share that and have people understand that, then again, like you said, you don't have to wear that mask.
Yeah.
You can show up, you can be vulnerable, you can connect to those around you, and you understand that, I'm going to, as much as I empower you, you're also empowering me to be my best self.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, I love that. And to the piece about we are all part of this whole, I think we get a glimpse of that whenever we recognize ourselves in other
Hmm.
people that look nothing like us and don't have the same lived or past experience. Like the
Hmm.
conversation we had at the beginning about going to a foreign country and not being able to speak the language, but yet finding a way to connect with other human beings. It's a glimpse into that wholeness, into that shared lived experience. So the second follow-up that I had was at the organizational level. I know one of the biggest challenges that leaders have now is building that sense of culture and community while leading remote teams. And I know a lot of the conversations and a lot of workshops that you lead them virtually. And
Hmm.
perhaps there are some insight there that you can share with leaders that are trying to tackle this very, very difficult task, which is my team is all over the world, but yet I want to build a sense of belonging, community with these people. Like, do you have some insight to share in that difficult task?
I think for myself, what I've seen work and be super beneficial is, uh, again, being able to reflect back to people what the what everyone is almost feeling in a visual way. So I'll give you an example. So a lot of the sessions I do, if they're online, it works perfectly. Even in person, it works good. But online, when I lead sessions, I use this platform called Mentimeter. And as I'm doing the session, I ask questions, right? I ask questions, and as I'm asking the question, people answering, I show my screen, and people can see. It's like, depending, it's a word bubble
Yeah.
a bar graph, whatever it might be. But I always start my session with, "How are you feeling today?" And people, they'll start to populate. Anxious, tired, I feel good, whatever it might be. But then people are seeing that, right? Like, oh, I'm not the only one that's feeling anxious. I'm not the only one that's tired. I'm not the only one that feels run down. Keep going through a session, ask more questions. And at the end, I close it off with, "How are you feeling now?" And you see that shift, right? That shift of the collective. I feel good. I feel relaxed. I feel ease. I feel focused. And I think the thing is, we need to be able to reflect back this understanding of the whole, and understanding that it's not just, like, you're not the only one that is feeling this suffering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not the only one that is feeling this sense of, like, disconnectivity. We're all feeling it. But if we can come together, and share that, then we can find ways to, I think, remedy
Yeah.
this discomfort, this unease, this unpleasantness that is there, and maybe, implement something like a meditation workshop, or like any of these sort of sessions that bring people together, and then feel that sense of
Yeah.
connectivity, feel that sense of focus, of just empathy towards one another. But a lot of the times we need to use these tools to show people visually what everyone is feeling and thinking.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think it's the a lot of companies are trying to bring all these employee engagement programs that usually take a top down approach. But I think starting where you are starting and asking people, how are you feeling, like what are the
Yeah.
challenges, and show the people, like, this is how all of you are responding to this is how all of us are feeling. And as in response to this, we are bringing Nice to See Me to do this meditation and this program for the next 6 weeks. I think the likelihood of people partaking in a program like that, when it starts that way, dramatically increased than receiving an email that says, "Oh, you all have to do this thing now. Everybody needs to
Mhm.
log in at least 6 hours of this." Da, 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 right? I think there is power there in really crowdsourcing the
Mhm.
needs that need to be addressed, and then presenting a solution that is a reflection of. And I think that's the other piece is coming up with a solution, because a lot of times companies ask, and employees share, but then people over time get fed up because they're like, well, what's the point? They always
Mhm.
ask, but nothing happens, nothing changes, there is no implementation, there is no structural organizational change visible. So I'm jaded and faded, and I'm not sharing anymore. It's pointless. So I feel like we are coming to the end of our conversation, and I feel like a good place for us to end this conversation is hitting again on this point around our shared humanity, because I think a
Mhm.
lot of the times what one of the many things that make us suffer is this illusion that we are alone, is this
Mhm.
illusion that we are uniquely flawed. So, because I know you ask more or less the same questions for all the sessions that you lead, can you
Mhm.
help us all understand all the ways in which we are not alone in our experience of work?
Wow, that's a really profound question. I think the way I understand it is, uh, it's like there's so many different components that come into like doing what you do and being able to do it efficiently. Let's say, I don't want to say successfully, just efficiently, being able to do it as efficient as possible. um, a lot of the times you have your, let's say you have your team, right? Your team of 4 people, and the 4 of you do similar jobs. Maybe you have different accounts that you serve. But in order for, you know, you to be able to do your job efficiently, there's other people outside of your team that are also have a very like important but maybe indirect way of influencing the work that you do. And a lot of the times I think we forget that we have this sense of like we have this connectivity to one another, where I can't function to my optimal without you. I can't, in this moment, I can't speak my truth without the questions that you're asking me, and without the way that you're holding space for me, because I feel comfortable. You know what I mean? You're helping me to feel comfortable and to open up. And I think we forget that. And we forget that it's not, all about me, 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 me. It's really about us. And it's really about understanding that, you know, we're this one person on this planet that's floating in this place we call the universe. And you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
there's so many of us. there's so many of us that can come together and can, do amazing things. And if we try to do it on our own, then, you just feel this sense of like loneliness, right? I was watching this podcast with Jay Shetty, and it was the CEO of Airbnb, and he said the the biggest pandemic in the States right now is loneliness, right? People are not connecting with one another. They're not. They feel afraid to share. They feel afraid to, help other people achieve their goals. They feel afraid to, share what they're working on because someone might steal it or their ideas. It's, I don't know. At the end of the day, if I share something, and it helps someone to bring something together that will assist 100, 1,000, 10,000 people, amazing.
Yeah.
I did what I was supposed to do. But,
Yeah.
if we hold back and we always feel like someone's out to get us, someone's out to take from us, and we don't understand that we gain so much more from giving, and we gain so much more from being in community with one another. I think that's the main thing, is being in community with one another and understanding that the giving is where the power is.
Yeah. Helton, man, thank you so much for this conversation. We have internal conversations all the time about the purpose of this podcast and whether or not the conversations that I have here and that I help lead here can really connect with an understanding of who we are as an agency, and does it even contribute to the bottom line of the company. And but conversations like these are such a powerful reminder that even if I wanted to stay within the context of marketing and branding and entrepreneurship, that none of that works unless people work. None of that
Mm-hmm.
works unless we understand people. As leaders, you can't lead if you don't understand the people in your charge. If you don't understand the wants, the needs, the fears, the insecurities, the aspiration, it doesn't work. And as a marketer, your ability to create a campaign, to bring a new idea or to bring a new product to market starts with an insight about human being, about the human experience. And the best marketers and the best strategists and the best entrepreneurs are those who have seen and understand something about our human experience that is hidden in plain sight, but that most people are missing. So I wanted to thank you, among other things, for reminding me why this podcast, in the way that it is so open and it takes us in so many directions that feels unrelated to what we do as a business. I wanted to thank you for reminding me why we decided to take this route, as unconventional and as much as sometimes it doesn't make sense, even to ourselves internally. And I also wanted to thank you for the work that you do. I think it has become abundantly clear in this conversation and in the national and even international conversation how important it is for us to rethink work, how important it is for us to rethink it by putting human beings, the wants, the needs, at the center of that conversation, and for
Mm-hmm.
work to once again become a tool for growth and expansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
In all the areas of our life, because that's all work is. It's supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be a tool for us to learn new things, to contribute our gift, our talents, to be able to look after our families and to feel safe
Mm-hmm.
and put a roof over our heads. That's what work is supposed to be. And but over time, work started to take more than give. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful for people like you who are leading this. I want to call it a movement of rethinking work, and leading these important conversations within companies and helping leaders really remind themselves where the focus should be. So, on behalf of the billions of people working all over the world, thank you, and thank you for being on this podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much.